Hi everyone, Mrs. Olson here. Today's lesson is part 2 of the Anatomy of the Constitution. So let's go over the learning target again, and it is understand the parts of the Constitution. So in part 1 of the video lesson, we went over the executive branch and also the legislative branch of the 3 branches of government which are outlined in the Constitution. So what is left today is to cover the judicial branch and then a few other parts of the Constitution. So here we go with the first slide. Article 3 of the Constitution is really about creating our court system. So this first note reads that it creates the judicial branch. So 3 branches of government: executive, legislative, and the third, the judicial branch. Okay? Now, what these guys do, guys and ladies, they interpret the laws that decide, they interpret the laws to decide what they mean and whether they have been followed or not. So this is part of our court process. You are innocent until proven guilty. And then if you are guilty, then there is another system that decides what your consequence, your punishment is going to be. This note reads that it creates the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court really is the law of the land, and it authorizes Congress to create the federal courts below the Supreme Court. So think about the Supreme Court being at, say, the top, and then beneath the Supreme Court, you have different levels of federal courts, okay? So let's break this note down just a little bit further. When we see the term federal, we want to think across the country, nationally, whereas there are state courts and state laws, and those are within each individual state. So in that way, we kind of have a separation. State and federal. Individual states versus national sort of laws. Okay? So there I am again, covering up my face. Sorry. Maybe you want me to. Anyways, there is the outside of the Supreme Court building, just to give you a look at it. These are Supreme Court justices. I think that it is within our view right here. These are the Supreme Court justices. Okay. And then the judicial branch can also appoint federal judges. So the Supreme Court can appoint the judges that are beneath them. Okay? And then it also guarantees trial by jury for criminal cases, and it explains crime of treason. Treason is committing a crime against your country. All right, so back to our cool little graphic here. And we have got the judicial branch. So here is the rendition of the Supreme Court. And then here are all of our Supreme Court judges. Okay? All right, so Article 4 is all about the states. Okay? It describes how the states should interact with each other. And each state has to respect the laws and court decisions of other states. So here in Washington, if Oregon makes a law and we don't like it, we have to respect that Oregon has made that law. So for example, Oregon doesn't have sales tax. That's a law in Oregon. Washington does have sales tax. We have to respect that Oregon passed a law where their people do not pay sales tax. Okay, and moving down again. This one reads, if a criminal flees from one state to another, The state where the crime was committed can request that the criminal be returned to face charges, and then that term is worded as extradition. Continuation of the states. It says new states can be admitted to the Union, so to the country, with the authorization of Congress and the President. So say we wanted to add a new state like Puerto Rico. Even though it's a territory right now, Congress could decide with the President if a new state was to be added to the country. This one reads, all states must have a Republican, that means a representative type of government. Remember that this is a brand new country that is breaking away from kingdom, really, that was led by a king. And they want to make sure that not any one person has the sole power. They want a Republican, a representative type of government everywhere in the country. Okay? So, no kings. All right, so Article 5, that's what this Roman numeral is, this V. Article 5 is about amending the Constitution. So, amending means to change, and Article 5 is all about how the Constitution could be changed. I just chose this graphic, and they kind of did a play on the periodic table of elements, and they did a periodic table of the amendments to give you an idea of how many amendments there are to the Constitution. Okay, Article 6, Roman numeral V and then I, Supreme Law of the Land. It states that the laws and treaties of the U.S. government are the supreme law of the land. Okay, so when we talk about individual state laws, they fall under the Constitution. This reads, if a state disagrees with federal law always wins. Federal law is at the top, and state laws do have to follow what federal law says. Okay. It requires officials working in the state and federal governments to take an oath to support the Constitution no matter what. So Article 6 is about national supremacy. National federal law is number 1 over state law. Okay? Article 7 is about ratification. Ratification means to ratify means to make into law. Okay? So it says the Constitution could not take effect until at least 9 out of the original 13 states approved it. So they wanted a majority for the Constitution. This reads that they agreed that 10 amendments to the Constitution would be added, and it was really a list of specific rights that wasn't included in the original Constitution. Okay? So here is a graphic that shows you the Bill of Rights, which really are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Do you recognize some of these? They're talked about fairly often. Freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, powers kept by the states or the people. Going to the next slide. Constitution became a law of the land in March of 1789. Let's do that one again for effect. Okay, so law of the land, 1789. That's the year that you want to remember. Okay, and there are the men, no women in this one, there are the men that made it law in 1789. Okay, now a few years later, that's when the Bill of Rights was added. So in 1791, those are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Okay, all right. Now here goes with the amendment process. The Constitution has been amended 27 times in our history. There's really only 2 steps in the amendment process, okay? First of all, the bill, the amendment, has to get approval in Congress, okay? Second step is that it has to get approval from the states, okay? Now, changing the Constitution, getting an amendment passed, can actually take a long time because all of the states have to approve it, okay? So here is a graphic that shows you the different ways in which an amendment to the Constitution can go through. So first is the proposal part, and the second part is ratification. And ratification means to make into law. We're proposing to talk a little bit more about the amendments. The first 12 amendments were proposed only a year after the Constitution took effect. So, when did the Constitution take effect? 1789, so we're talking 1790, right? And then only 10 out of those 12 were ratified. Ratify means to make into law. Hundreds of amendment proposals are introduced to Congress each year, and only 33 have ever received enough votes to actually be proposed, and now 27 of them are ratified. So as you can see, there are probably many proposals that Congress hears, but throughout our history, there have only been 27 to make it through. Okay. So a few, even though there are 27 of them, here is a look at some important amendments that are kind of groundbreaking, earth-shattering ones. So the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments you actually get to learn about this semester, and these are passed during the Reconstruction era after the Civil War. So the 13th abolished slavery, the 14th gave citizenship to ex-slaves, and the 15th gave Black men the right to vote, okay? Then we fast forward in the 1920s, the 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. The 22nd Amendment limits the president to 2 terms. One of our presidents, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, actually served 4 terms. The 24th eliminated poll taxes, and we got to talk about what a poll tax is this semester. And the 26th comes about during the Vietnam War, and it gave 18-year-olds the right to vote. So these are big amendments, important ones in the history of the United States. All right, guys, this is the end of the Anatomy of the Constitution lesson. Again, hopefully you've taken good notes because you can use those notes on the lesson questions, which is the assignment that follows or goes with this lesson. Hope you guys learned a lot. Talk to you later. Bye.